Hello and welcome into our mindful self-compassion session. Thank you so much for taking the time on this day, for being willing to spend the next 40 or so minutes learning and practicing self-compassion. Right now, as we begin this session, I would like for you to ask yourself this question. Why am I here? Why am I here? And if you wish, you can even write down the answer. And then I invite you to ask yourself the following question. Why am I really here? Why am I really here? So just going a little bit deeper with our answer this time. As one of my meditation teachers said, enlightenment involves two things, intention and attention. Or in other words, a purpose and the act or the power of focusing the mind on something. So with you asking yourself these questions, I would like for you to set an intention for this session. And also to begin to notice where and how you're going to place your attention during our discussion and practices. So now I would like to introduce myself. My name is Vira Salzburn, and I'm a trained teacher in mindful self-compassion. Also, I am an applied suicide intervention skills training master trainer and trauma-sensitive mindfulness certified instructor. I also teach fitness and yoga. And today it is such an honor for me to be with you and talk to you about something that's very dear to my heart and something that's been life-changing for me as well as for hundreds and thousands of people around the world, the Mindful Self-Compassion program. So the Mindful Self-Compassion program was created by Dr. Kristin Neff and Dr. Germer, whom I was very fortunate to have as my teachers. Dr. Neff is Associate Professor of Human Development and Culture at the University of Texas at Austin, and she is a true pioneer in the field of self-compassion research. She is the author of the book SelfCompassion, The Proven Power of Being Kind to Yourself, and she has published numerous academic articles on self-compassion. And Dr. Chris Germer has a private practice in mindfulness and compassion-based psychotherapy in Arlington, Massachusetts, and he's also a part-time lecturer on psychiatry at Harvard Medical School, Cambridge Health Alliance. He is a founding faculty member of the Institute for Meditation and Psychotherapy and of the Center for Mindfulness and Compassion. His books include The Mindful Path to Self-Compassion and Wisdom and Compassion in Psychotherapy. He's working on his next book, which is going to talk about shame and how self-compassion is the antidote to shame. I am really looking forward to his book coming out this year. I love this quote that says, "Your mind must arrive at your destination before your life does." So let's set an intention to arrive today and to learn the following. To gain an understanding of mindful self-compassion, to explore the benefits of self-compassion, to identify ways to implement self-compassion into daily life, and to recognize additional resources for mindful self-compassion. And now I invite you to spend the next 3 to 5 minutes with me and dive into the first meditation practice of our session. If you've never meditated before, that's okay. You can just try. And if you don't wish to do it, you can just listen and take what you need. This meditation practice is called soft landing. And now, as we are present in this practice, our intention is to bring our hearts and minds into our space as well. So please sit comfortably, allowing your feet to rest on the ground, your hands rest in your lap. Letting your eyes close partially or fully. And let's start by simply listening to the sounds in the room. Let them come to you. And now in your mind's eye, finding your own body in the room and greeting yourself with an inner smile. Inclining your awareness toward yourself as you might with a dear friend. And now dropping your awareness into your body and noticing if there are any physical sensations in the body. Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. Are there any pleasant sensations? Can you take a moment to savor and appreciate them? Are there any unpleasant sensations? Perhaps can you make some space for them, allowing them to be there, if only for this moment. And remembering that you are not alone and that discomfort is part of the human condition. And if there is discomfort, can you let your heart soften a little? Be a little tender, maybe just around the edges. Or maybe offer yourself some words of encouragement, such as, "It's okay, you can handle this." And finally, appreciating the effort and the good intentions that brought you here, which is already an act of compassion and self-compassion. And now gently opening your eyes. Before we talk about the definition of self-compassion, let's actually try this exercise that may help you better understand how self-compassionate you are. So for this exercise, you may close your eyes if you wish, if that helps support your attention, and simply reflect on the following question. Think about various times when you've had a close friend who was struggling in some way, maybe had a misfortune or failed or felt inadequate, and you were feeling pretty good about yourself. So how do you typically respond to your friends in such situations? What do you say? What words do you use? What tone of voice do you use? How is your posture? What are some of the nonverbal gestures? Now, if you had your eyes closed, you can open them, and if you wish, you can write down what you discovered. And now close your eyes again and reflect on the next question. Think about various times when you were struggling in some way. Maybe you had a misfortune or failed or felt inadequate. How do you typically respond to yourself in these situations? What do you say? What tone do you use? What is your posture? What is your body like? What are some of the nonverbal gestures? And again, if you wish, you may write down what you discovered. And finally, consider the difference between how you treat your friend who is struggling perhaps and how you treat yourself. Do you notice a difference? Do you notice any patterns? So if you discovered that perhaps you tend to be more compassionate toward others than toward yourself, please don't be too disappointed. In fact, what it shows us that you still have capacity for compassion. And also, compassion and self-compassion are skills that can be taught and learned. So there is a potential and there is a way to increase your levels of self-compassion. Also, research shows that about 78% of people are more compassionate toward others than they are toward themselves. About 6% of people are compassionate more toward themselves than toward others, and about 16% of people are equally compassionate toward others and toward themselves. And the good news are again that the Mindful Self-Compassion program can help and does help increase levels of self-compassion. In fact, the 8-week Mindful Self-Compassion course shows to increase participants' self-compassion in some cases by 50%. And perhaps the following poem will help you ease a little bit of tension from discovering that maybe you haven't been as compassionate to yourself as you'd like. So this poem is called If You Can. The author is unknown. If you can start the day without caffeine, if you can always be cheerful, ignoring aches and pains, if you can resist complaining and boring people with your troubles, if you can eat the same food every day and be grateful for it, if you can understand when your loved ones are too busy to give you any time, if you can take criticism and blame without resentment, if you can conquer tension without medical help, if you can relax without alcohol, if you can sleep without the aid of drugs, then you are probably a dog. So that's right. Being a human being, it's complicated, it's complex. And sometimes we also are quite unsuccessful at being human beings, and sometimes We are rather human doings. So again, the invitation today is to perhaps consider a possibility of beginning to accept yourself just as you are and allowing yourself to just be, even if just for a moment. Now let's take a closer look at the definitions and the meaning of self-compassion. Well, the word compassion from Latin means to suffer with. I love this definition of compassion as the courage to see the cause of someone's suffering and the willingness to alleviate it. Think perhaps of a time when you saw a homeless person on the street, and somehow it is very difficult to even turn our gaze toward the pain of that homeless person. It truly takes an element of courage to turn toward the pain. And it also takes the willingness and the desire to alleviate pain. So, willingness to see and alleviate your own pain and suffering is self-compassion. Self-compassion is a positive emotion that involves extending compassion to oneself in instances of perceived inadequacy, failure, or general suffering. With self-compassion, you relate to yourself the way you would relate to a friend who is suffering or having a hard time. Even if your friend blew it or is just feeling inadequate or maybe facing a tough life challenges, you still care. You still speak the words of compassion and empathy. You still show your love through your action. Through self-compassion, we befriend ourselves. We become an inner ally instead of an inner enemy. With self-compassion, we learn to speak and to nurture ourselves like a good friend. The more complete definition of self-compassion involves three core elements that we bring to bear when we are in pain: self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness. Each of these core elements is an important part of understanding self-compassion. So let's take a look at each of these core components. Let's start with self-kindness. Self-kindness is literally being kind to ourselves and treating ourselves with care and understanding rather than harsh self-judgment. Think of it like putting a supportive arm around our shoulders. And instead of attacking and berating ourselves for being inadequate, we offer ourselves warmth and unconditional acceptance. When external life circumstances are challenging and feel too difficult to bear, we actively soothe and comfort ourselves. The next component of self-compassion is common humanity. Common humanity is a sense of interconnectedness and is central to self-compassion. It's recognizing that all humans are flawed and that we're all works in progress. Everyone fails, makes mistakes, and experiences hardship in life. Common humanity is the opposite of isolation. We all suffer, but have different flavors of suffering. And when we remember that pain is part of the shared human experience, every moment of suffering is transformed into a moment of connection with others. And the third component of self-compassion is mindfulness. Mindfulness involves being aware of moment-to-moment experience in a clear and balanced manner. It means being open to the reality of the present moment, allowing all thoughts, emotions, and sensations to enter awareness without resistance or avoidance. Mindfulness allows us to be with painful feelings as they are, without suppressing or running away from them. We cannot ignore our pain and feel compassion for it at the same time. So, to be self-compassionate, mindfulness is actually the first step we need to take. We need presence of mind to respond in a new way. So, besides the three elements that define self-compassion, self-compassion may also be explored through what seems like the opposite qualities or attributes of self-compassion. We can think of them as yin and yang in traditional Chinese philosophy. The yin self-compassion contains the attributes of being with ourselves in a compassionate way, comforting our emotional body, soothing our physical body, and validating ourselves and our experience. The yang compassion includes protecting ourselves from danger and saying no to others who are hurting us. It also involves providing for ourselves what we need and saying yes to those things that are good for us. Yang self-compassion also involves motivating ourselves like a good coach, with encouragement, support, and understanding, not harsh criticism. So right now I would like to offer you this simple tool or PARK model that can help you remember to practice some of the steps of mindfulness and self-compassion. P in the PARK model stands for pause. So simply pause what you are doing. Take a few deep breaths. A stands for ask. Ask yourself, what do I need right now? And perhaps ask yourself a deeper question. What do I really need right now? Allow yourself to be open and honest with your answer. R stands for recognize your bodily sensations, emotions, and thoughts. Notice present sensations in your body, such as tension, ache, discomfort. Identify your emotions and label them as sadness, fear, anger, disappointment, confusion. Observe your thoughts and how they move through your mind. And finally, K in the PARK model stands for kindly respond. Kindly respond to your needs just as you would with a good friend. And you can do so by comforting, soothing, validating yourself, protecting yourself, providing something for yourself, or motivating yourself like a good coach, using the yin and yang attributes of self-compassion. Self-compassion is an antidote to negative emotions such as harsh self-criticism and shame, which are often present when an individual is struggling with life's setbacks, failures, or sometimes just general suffering. And the effects of harsh self-criticism include that it can lead to depression, anxiety, and relationship problems. Self-criticism has been linked to eating disorders, self-mutilation, body dysmorphic disorder. Also, a tendency to criticize oneself leads to projecting negative beliefs onto others, which may result in isolation and loneliness. And self-critical individuals often find it difficult to assert personal needs and desires. Self-criticism involves the threat defense system. You may know it as fight, flight, freeze, which are also common trauma responses. The threat defense system evolved so that when we perceive a threat, our amygdala, which registers danger in the brain, gets activated, releases cortisol and adrenaline, and we get ready to fight, flee, or freeze. The system works well for protecting against threats to our physical bodies. Nowadays, most of the threats we face are challenges to our self-image or self-concept. So this response puts us in a state of chronic stress. Chronic stress can cause anxiety and depression, which is why habitual self-criticism is so bad for emotional and physical well-being. So when we criticize ourselves, we are tapping into the body's threat defense system. The threat defense system is the quickest and most easily triggered response among the different ways we can react to perceived danger. With self-criticism, we are both the attacker and the attacked. In the table on your screen, we are seeing the stress responses and what the response looks like when internalized. Self-compassion helps downregulate the threat response. When the stress response, fight, flight, or freeze, is triggered by a threat to our self-concept, we are likely to turn on ourselves. We fight ourselves, which is self-criticism. We flee from others, which is isolation, or we freeze, which is rumination or thinking again and again in similar patterns. These three reactions are precisely the opposite of the three components of self-compassion, which are self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness. Now, let's look at the physiological underpinnings of self-compassion. The evolutionary advance of mammals is that mammalian young are born very immature and have a longer developmental period to adapt to their environment. To keep infants safe during this vulnerable period, the mammalian care system evolved, prompting parents and offspring to stay close. When the care system is activated, oxytocin, or the love hormone, and endorphins, which are natural opiates, are released, which can help reduce stress and increase feelings of safety and security. Two reliable ways of activating the care system are soothing touch and gentle vocalization. Just think of a time when a mother needs to comfort her crying baby. She touches and holds her baby, and she also whispers or sings to her baby. Compassion, including self-compassion, is linked to the mammalian care system. Self-compassion helps to downregulate the threat response. So when we practice self-compassion, when we talk to ourselves in a warm and kind manner, perhaps when we give ourselves soothing touch, or just a little self-hug, we are deactivating the threat defense system and activating the care system. So to recap, with self-criticism, we are both the attacker and the attacked. And with self-compassion, we are both the holder and the held. Self-compassion leads to well-being by holding negative thoughts and emotions in loving, connected presence. Self-compassion is associated with reductions in negative mind states like anxiety, depression, stress, rumination, thought suppression, perfectionism, and shame. And self-compassion is linked to increases in positive mind states like life satisfaction, happiness, connectedness, self-confidence, optimism, curiosity, and gratitude. The benefits of mindfulness and self-compassion are both well established and wide-ranging. Studies on subjects ranging from students to Marines have found that practicing mindfulness and self-compassion reduces stress and leads to higher levels of well-being. Studies also show that self-compassion may protect against suicidal behavior, in part due to reduced depressive symptoms and heightened engagement in wellness behaviors. Self-compassion rises from a heart of mindful awareness. Once you become aware of physical, emotional, and/or cognitive pain that you might be experiencing, you can make a choice to respond to yourself compassionately, using one or all three of these compassionate responses. Physical compassion involves giving yourself gentle and supportive touch. Emotional compassion is about offering yourself words of kindness and encouragement. And mental self-compassion may include acceptance of your experience, validation of your feelings. Research shows that gentle and soothing touch can help our brain release happy hormones like oxytocin and serotonin. So if you're giving yourself that soothing touch, it can still be quite effective. That may mean massaging the back of your neck, perhaps squeezing your hands gently, maybe even scratching your ankles. And mental compassion is really about how we relate to our experience and ourselves. For example, when you are stuck in traffic, you can quickly turn from being aggravated to becoming very angry, simply because being stuck in traffic is not what you want to do or is not where you want to be in the moment. So mindfulness practice is about acceptance of your experience and also the quality of attention that you pay to your experience. So imagine when we let go of resistance, when we accept the fact that we are stuck in traffic, then we do not necessarily have to become angry or overly activated by the fact that we, just like everybody else, is not sitting on our comfortable couch at home watching Netflix. One meditation teacher provides this equation for suffering. Suffering equals pain times resistance. And non-suffering or freedom equals pain times acceptance. The circle of our freedom is as wide as the things we are willing to accept into it. And now I would like to invite you to the second meditation of our session. You can think of this meditation as a capstone of this session. It includes the elements of self-compassion, self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness. And also during this meditation, we will be able to practice relating to ourselves the way we would relate to a good friend. So I invite you to sit comfortably, perhaps with your back upright but not too tight, with your hands resting in your lap. And we're going to spend about 5 minutes practicing this meditation called SelfCompassion Break. So please close your eyes fully or partially and think of a situation in your life that is difficult and is causing you stress right now. Call the situation to mind and see if you can actually feel the stress and emotional discomfort in your body. Please choose a situation that is not too overwhelming. We're just trying to practice. So perhaps on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being no stress, 10 being too much stress, choose a situation somewhere between 4 and 6. Clearly visualize in your mind's eye who is involved, perhaps what was said or done. And begin to notice any bodily sensations that may arise as you're thinking about the situation. Perhaps there's tension in your chest or belly. Perhaps there's just general discomfort in your body. Or maybe tightness in your back or your shoulders. A slight sign of headache. Maybe your palms begin to sweat. Or maybe there's a sense of numbness. And now say to yourself, this is a moment of suffering. This acknowledgement is a form of mindfulness, of simply noticing what is going on for you emotionally in the present moment without judging or labeling your experience as good or bad. You can also say to yourself, this hurts, or this is stress. This is difficult. Use whatever statement feels most natural to you. Next, say to yourself, suffering is a part of life. This is a recognition of your common humanity with others, that all people have painful experiences, and these experiences give you something in common with the rest of humanity. And it's not just you. Perhaps you can offer yourself some other statements, such as, I am not alone. Other people suffer too. We all struggle in our lives. And now I invite you to put your hands over your heart, or you can simply hold one hand with another, feeling the warmth of your hands and the gentle touch. And say to yourself, may I be kind to myself. This is a way to express self-kindness. You can also consider Maybe there's another phrase that would speak to you in this particular situation. For example, may I give myself the compassion that I need? Or may I accept myself just as I am? May I forgive myself? May I be strong? May I be patient? And if the words are not easily coming to you right now, maybe imagine a dear friend who might be struggling with a similar situation. What would you say to your friend? What words would you use? What message would you send to them? And now see if you can say this message and offer it for yourself. Turning the compassion that you have for your friend inward. Because you, as all living beings, also have a wish to be happy and free of suffering. And now simply notice what it feels like to receive a message of compassion. And now I invite you to let go of any images and simply take a moment and sit in your experience, allowing yourself to feel whatever you're feeling, accepting yourself and your experience just as you are. And now slowly and gently opening your eyes. So the self-compassion break may be practiced in the form of a meditation, just as we did. Or you can also choose parts of this meditation during the day to either remind yourself of common humanity or be mindful of your bodily sensations, your emotions and thoughts. Or perhaps offering yourself some words of self-kindness and encouragement, talking to yourself the way you would talk to a good friend. You don't have to spend hours meditating in order to be self-compassionate. You only need to begin to consider the possibility of accepting yourself just as you are, a little bit more, inch by inch, every day. I love this quote by Carl Rogers, who said, "The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I change." Practicing self-compassion is not about fixing yourself or changing yourself, although the change does come as a result of the practice. But self-compassion means embracing yourself with all of your mistakes and imperfections. It means being a mess, but being a compassionate mess, and remembering that we are all works in progress. Self-compassion doesn't mean self-pity, it doesn't mean weakness. In fact, being self-compassionate helps us to be more resilient and face difficult situations with more openness and acceptance and kindness toward others and ourselves. Today, I would love for you to begin to consider a possibility of becoming more compassionate and more self-compassionate. Some of the resources that might be helpful to you on your journey toward self-compassion include the Mindful Self-Compassion Workbook, a proven way to accept yourself, build inner strength, and thrive. And this book is written by Dr. Kristin Neff and Dr. Christopher Germer, and it includes a wide variety of tools, exercises, meditations, and practices that might be helpful to you, your clients, and the people you serve. Another resource that I would like to mention is this book by Susan Pollack called Self-Compassion for Parents. Nurture your child by caring for yourself. This is a great toolkit that includes multiple micro practices, exercises, and meditations that parents can use during challenging times. And finally, if you have any questions or want to learn more about mindful self-compassion and the work we are doing in Savannah, Georgia with our program, please feel free to reach out to me at my email, Vira Salzburn at chlink.org, or my phone number 912-661-0577. And with that, I want to thank you all for participating in this webinar. May you all be happy. May you all be healthy. May you all be peaceful. Have a wonderful rest of your day.